You know, everyone agrees that this whole fuel subsidy regime was a scam. Even those that campaigned alongside President Bola
Absolutely.
Tinubu, they all said they were going to,
presidential candidates.
Yes, they all said they were going to remove the subsidy. They all condemned the whole subsidy regime, and Nigerians also agree with that. But now that it has been removed, it appears as if it's also taking more money out of the pocket of poor Nigerians, and people are beginning to ask, can't it be reorganized in a way, or reinvented in a way that there will be proper accountability, and then reduce this whole hardship Nigerians are going through?
Who says there's no accountability?
No, but subsidy has been removed, but it can be returned in a more accountable way.
Well, first, FARC has increased twice. FARC is shared by the federal government to the state government. The federal government takes its own. The state government take double, almost triple of what, almost 57% increase. That is significant. Such monies are to go back to the state governments for them to take care of the people. You see, there's a tendency to pile all the blame on the federal government, on the center, on President Tinubu. But read our constitution. These resources are shared every month. Where do they go to? What do they apply them to? The president cannot dictate, but the president has given a general direction for this country in terms of reforms, in terms of the 8-point agenda he has for the country. The governors plug in, and they must invest these resources to help the people. I think that's the direction we need to go, and it's very important.
Yeah, but you know, some of even President Bola Tinubu's worst critics, you know, they all acknowledge that, you know, he's that man that can take bold decisions. He has that courage to make bold decisions. Could it be that Nigerians were not ready for such a leader, or is it that, you know, these bold economic reforms are not just working the way they expect it to?
Well, I think it's more of Nigerians not ready. It's a shock therapy to say, look, well, let us face reality. And I tell you, President Bola Tinubu is a man that loves data. He loves data. So before he makes a decision, he will have churned out and fed himself with data, look at all the options before moving forward. And I think that Nigeria has come to a time in which we must confront the reality of our time. The resources and revenue to government is going down. Our population is increasing. We have a lot of leakages in our system. And like I said, it must come to a time when you will need a leader to emerge. You see, we can continue to apply Band-Aid. This president says, no, we're not apply Band-Aid no more. Let me give you Lee Kuan Yew, 1953 to 1990. His story is well told. But when he came in, he took 3 major decisions that became extremely contentious. Yet he stood his ground all through, working with the people, explaining, but also making sure that increasingly there were improvements in the quality of life. First, he said, let's have English language as the unifier language. It was attacked all through. Second, he said, pay civil servants, public servants, massive salaries. Very important. The third thing he did was to ask that they bring the best people, experts, anywhere around the world. Best experts in energy, best experts in power, best experts in education, to build the backbone infrastructure needed for Singapore's development. Those 3 decisions were so contentious, but he stayed the course. This president will stay the course because he has seen the data and he knows that what Nigeria needs now is fixing. And I'm sure Nigerians will come to terms with this development, and in no distant future we'll start to see the impact. Already we're seeing it. You look at the CNG, for instance, it's an option. You look at Nelfon, extremely successful. You look at Credit Corp, as it is. More than 11,000 civil servants have gotten their money. The lowest interest rate you can ever get, 4%. So this president is at work for this country. This president deals with statistics and data, but also understands that to some extent there are certain decisions that have to be taken now. If not, this country will have to suffer for it.
But does he have a team that understands his vision, because people are also asking about the decision-making processes.
It does.
And even the expected outcomes
and a good example,
probably reflective of
and a good example is the tax reform bills, like I said. It's a remarkable document. I'm not a financial expert, but I had to really sit down and go through. I also spoke to some experts, and I saw clearly the work that went into it. A president that understands that the re-engineering of the tax regime of this country and the finances of this country at both the federal and the state level is critical, and he needed to fix it. That's one. Two, most of the programs rolled out have expected outcomes. They have targets. You understand? Look at NEL Fund, for instance, almost 80 billion disbursed. It's covered over 100 or 115 universities. It's progressing as planned. That's one. CNG, 1 million kids to be distributed free. 2,000 tricycles to young people. The centers we have for conversion, last year were just 7. Right now we have 125. $175 million invested by the private sector. That shows they believe in the CNG revolution.
But
the federal government, 75 million.
For the CNG, some people have said the progress achieved so far is still like a drop of water in an ocean, because more than 80% of Nigerians
let me tell you why, and that's going to change in the next few months. It's because the infrastructure needed is being put together. It's a gradual process. No country transits from PMS in 5 months or even 1 year. A country like ours, you know the number of cars we have on the road? So a little more patience, and we're going to see that infrastructure comes up. I know that CNG is saying before the end of this year, they're going to triple the number of conversion centers. The 1 million conversion kits comes in a few weeks, and it's going to go around. And I think that this is a government that has kept faith with the programs and policies and the reforms it has brought on. But also it's important to know that these transitions, these changes need time. Changes do not occur overnight. It can be different for this country, and that's the message we need to put out clearly.
How much more time? Nigerians have waited for more than a year now. How much more time?
You know, when you read some of the greatest books on economics and development, you find out that the average gestation period for any policy, depending on the size of the policy, is between 2 to 5 years. There are no shortcuts. No shortcuts. And I think that if this is not a president that wants to take shortcuts, because he has a choice to take shortcuts, wait for 4 years, go another 4 years, and 8 years go by, and then leaves this country. Every president comes in, inherits certain liabilities and also assets. And he has a responsibility. On his way out, he must bequeath a legacy. This president cares about his legacy, but also cares less about the applause. Because if you listen to the applause, if he listens to the applause alone, if he's somebody that just wants to be popular for the sake of it, he will reverse all these reforms. And then what happens? That's like digging the hole. When you're in a hole, you're digging deeper. Now he has provided several rafts through the reforms we're having. Look at the oil industry, for instance. Now we have Naira for crude oil. We have the Dangote refinery. The modular refineries are producing. In a short while, we're going to have at least 50% to 70% local refining. That's progress. When this happens, that's what happens in Indonesia. By the time they move from 25% local petroleum refining to about 60%, the price of oil came down. Don't forget, the PMS is benchmarked in dollars. Right now, we're having local refinery, reducing almost to less than 10% or whatever importation that will come in. So it's all Naira-based. That's a decision he has taken. That must be applauded, to say, sell to Dangote or any other refinery. That's one. Two, there are plans by government to also privatize quickly. And you know, several governments have started it. They stop with turnaround maintenance, it will not complete, back and forth. Here is a president who says, it is time to privatize our 4 refineries. And then they will join with the Dangote refinery. And then that will increase our local production. And that will beat down the price eventually.
But how informed? What kind of feedback does the president get? How informed is he about the realities outside there, the realities on the streets, what Nigerians face on a daily basis? Does he get accurate feedback?
The president gets accurate information. Because let me tell you how you can draw the line. When you see the policies that are turned out, when you see the approvals that he gives, it makes you understand that he actually understands what is happening in the country. Let me take the youth of our nation, for instance. Recognizes the fact that we have a restless youth population. The unemployment among the youth is quite high. They need to have inclusivity in government. What did he do? First, he announced on October 1st, the National Youth Conference for 30 days. That's huge. That eventually, if it takes place, we're going to have the benefit from our youth about what they think is important. 2, he increased the youth NYIF, Nigerian Youth Investment Fund, which is meant to create wealth, to turn our youth to wealth creators, 210 billion. That's critical. Then he brought on the large part of our youth, huge population, 92 million, counting 120 million, brought NEL Fund. No administration has ever, when bursary disappeared completely, there was no solution. NEL Fund is right there, 126 universities benefiting, almost 80 billion disbursed, and that will go year on year, giving people the benefit to get the education. He always says, Mr. President always says, the greatest weapon against poverty is education. And any country that does not educate its people, particularly its youth, no matter the policies you put in place, it will be impossible to achieve the development and the growth that you require.
Yeah, well, there's also, why I asked how informed or aware